So, what if I told you that the secret to stopping huge projects from failing isn't some fancy new software, but a 20-year-old document from the military? Yeah, it sounds a little weird, I know, but we're about to unpack a blueprint that was designed for building things like jets and tanks, and it has some incredible lessons for anyone trying to build, well, anything ambitious. It's a painful question, right? Because we have all been there. A project kicks off with all this energy and excitement, and then somewhere along the line, it just completely goes off the rails. And you know what? Most of the time, the problem isn't technical. It's because the team never really had a single, shared picture of what they were building in the first place. And this analogy just hits the nail on the head. Just picture this scene for a second. The user, they're dreaming of a safe, practical minivan for their family. Meanwhile, the engineer, who's all about performance, is busy designing a sleek, two-seater sports car. And then you've got the finance team, who's looked at the budget and said, yeah, you've got enough for a bicycle. It is a total recipe for disaster, and believe me, it happens every single day. So how do you fix this mess? Well, you need what I like to call a consensus machine. And that is exactly what this document is. It's called the Operational Concept Description, or OCD for short. And its entire reason for being is to get everybody in the room to agree on what kind of car they're building before anyone even thinks about picking up a wrench. Okay, so here's the official definition, but don't let the formal language scare you off. The magic here is really in three simple ideas. First, what do users actually need? Second, how is this new thing going to fit with what we already have? And third, how are people really going to use it? See, it forces you to stop obsessing over technical specs and start telling a story from the user's point of view. You might have to squint a little to see it, but buried in that text is the single most important line in this whole thing. The number one goal is to obtain consensus. That's it. That's the key. This thing isn't a technical spec sheet, it's a social tool. It's designed to build a bridge of understanding between every single person involved. And this quote just spells it all out, doesn't it? It forces the acquirer, the folks paying the bills, to actually talk to the developer who's building it, the support team who has to keep it running, and, most importantly, the user who has to live with this thing every day. It literally gets them all in one room to agree on the absolute basics. All right, so how does this thing actually work in practice? Well, the process is kind of brilliant. It starts with a brutally honest look in the mirror. Before you can even dream about the future, you have to force everyone to agree on the reality of right now. This is the as-is section. Right here, in section 3 of the actual document, it makes the team describe the current system in painstaking detail. There is absolutely no room for assumptions or different opinions. You have to write it down on paper exactly what you have today, warts and all. And this, right here, is where the magic really happens. The document forces you to get on the same page about 5 core questions. Not just what are the parts, but what world does this system even live in? Not just what are the features, but how does it talk to everything else around it? You have to define its capabilities and, so critically, who is actually using it right now? Answering these simple questions as a team will prevent a world of pain down the road. Okay, so once everyone is finally in agreement on where you are, then, and only then, can you have a productive conversation about where you're going. This is the second half of the story, imagining that to-be state. This is where you get to paint that picture of the future. And here's the genius part. The section for describing the new system is structured almost exactly like the section describing the old one. Now, that is not a mistake. That's the whole point. It forces you to make a clear, direct, before and after comparison. This is the narrative at the very heart of the OCD. It really is a tale of two systems. Over on the left, you've got the as-is world with all of its documented problems and all its limitations. Then on the right, you've got the to-be vision, which directly addresses those problems with brand new capabilities. You're basically telling a story of transformation from here to there. But look, having a great vision isn't enough, right? You have to justify it. The OCD forces you to build a logical bridge that connects the as-is to the to-be. You have to prove why this expensive, difficult change is actually necessary. And here's how you build that bridge. You explicitly lay out the new needs. You summarize the specific problems the new system is going to fix. You prioritize what's a must-have versus what's just a nice-to-have. And I love this last one. You have to document the ideas you considered and then rejected. This is huge because it stops old arguments from popping back up 6 months down the line. It's such a powerful alignment tool. Finally, before you get the green light, the OCD demands one last, pretty sobering step, a final reality check. Because let's be honest, no new system is ever perfect. This is the part where you openly and honestly talk about the trade-offs you're making. This is the final, brutal honesty check. This framework makes you put the advantages right next to the disadvantages. You actually have to admit what capabilities might get lost, what the undesirable side effects might be, and where the new system might clash with how users think it should work. Having this conversation up front, before you build anything, saves just an incredible amount of pain. So when you take a step back and look at the whole thing, you realize the operational concept description isn't really a document at all. It's a process. It's a structured conversation that's designed to create a deep, resilient, and most importantly, shared understanding among everyone who has a stake in the outcome. So that really just leaves one final, critical question for your next big project. Before anyone writes a single line of code or books a single meeting room, just ask yourself this. What conversations do we need to have right now to make sure we're all building a minivan and not a bicycle?